Much. Making a buzz this afternoon and likely ruffling a few feathers out there this afternoon. A new study finds rich people are more likely to engage in unethical behavior. Scientists at the University of California, Berkeley analyzed a person's rank in society measured by wealth, occupational prestige, and education. They found those who were rich were more likely to cheat, lie, and break the law than those who were poor. Other findings: people who drove expensive cars are more likely to cut you off and even cut off pedestrians. Wealthy participants were also more likely to admit they'd lie during negotiations and were more likely to cheat in an online game to win $50. Researchers say it boils down to greed. Wealthy people tend to have more power and are more inclined to behave unethically for financial gain and self-interest, with adverse effects on society as a whole. Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme is case in point. Of course, this does not apply to all wealthy people. We want to say that. For example, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett are among the world's wealthiest and philanthropic. So tell us, does this study make sense to you, or do you disagree and think it's flawed?
Joining us to break down this topic and more, today's guest, attorney Felicia Rodolini. Of course, you can't just blanket everyone.
No. Well, I've been conducting my own study for the last 25 years as a lawyer, in politics, and as a prosecutor of white-collar fraud. And what I see is it's really whether you have a sense of ethics within you. So you could be poor, you could be rich, but it's whether or not you understand your behavior has a consequence. And in the years that I did white-collar fraud, I saw mostly affluent people, professional people who took advantage of others. But the bottom line is, I think anybody, whether you're rich or poor, has a problem with ethics. It comes from how they were raised and who they used as role models, really.
And so many people say if you're born into wealth, if you're a silver-spooned kid, you maybe never had a chance to learn those ethical values because you had it all handed to you from birth. So where does that line draw?
You know, I think it's who raised you and how you got raised, and whether or not you really understand that that your conduct has a consequence. I've prosecuted embezzlers that came from very poor circumstances, a lot of criminal activity, which you would certainly say is unethical. Sometimes it's from folks of poor circumstances. I have a hard time putting anybody in a category, because just because you're philanthropic doesn't mean you haven't had an opportunity to be unethical. So I know a lot of philanthropic folks who've had their moments of unethics. So it's really situational.
Well, when you see someone like Bernie Madoff and that Ponzi scheme, what do you attribute that to beyond greed?
Yeah.
I mean, this is someone who really thought that he was above the law.
You know what it is? It's ego. People get to a point where they don't want to look like they're stupid, they don't want to look like they're poor, they don't want to look like they're average, or they have a drug habit, or their habit is prestige and having other people fall all over them. And a lot of times those kind of folks are affluent and they do get in trouble.
It sounds like an addiction in and of itself.
It is. Many people who engage in crimes have addictions of one form or another, but it's the ego telling you that you're above the law truly is what I've seen in the white-collar world.
And here's what you guys are saying on Facebook.
Brian Hughes writes, not any more or any less than anyone else. They, rich people, are just better at hiding it.
Chris Favor says there can and will be good and bad people of rich, poor, and middle. It's the person themselves. Money can cause people to do stupid things. Same with those who have little.
Anita Mahaffey says that's why the bankers get bonuses and the poverty-stricken are driven to crime for their very survival.
Tony Smith-Kasser says money has nothing to do with it. Ethics are about what class you are in.
Or not.
Or not about what class you're in.
There you go. And Michelle Smythe says, I think the main problem is hubris, the belief that one can do whatever one wants, either because there are no real consequences or one in a position of privilege. That fault crosses all economic barriers.
She's right.
Yeah,
she's right.
The dialogue was really split on this on our Facebook page. We encourage you to keep it going.